Welcome to day 4 in our 21 days of prayer. We're praying as a church family, preparing ourselves for Christmas, also focusing on missions and what God is doing both in our church and around the world. Today, we continue the story we began last week. The angel appears to Joseph and says, Mary is going to give birth to a son. And we saw last week that the angel said, you are to name him Jesus. That's in verse 21. But today he gets another name, and we read in the 22nd verse, all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. Matthew says this fulfilled what was spoken through the prophet. You can read that in Isaiah 7:14. A virgin will give birth to a son, and you will call him Emmanuel. First, he'll be named Jesus, which means God saves, but now he's to be given the name Emmanuel. Emmanuel is with us, and El is from Elohim, which is the Hebrew word for God. And so you put that together. Emmanuel means God with us. Not God near us or God above us, God somewhere in the neighborhood. No, God is with us. Divinity wrapped in human flesh. God became one of us. The only way people like us could relate to someone as big as God was for him to send his son and become one of us and to be with us and to promise that he would never ever leave us. And that's a beautiful message to share on Christmas, because even though it is a time of year where we celebrate and we sing joy to the world, a lot of people don't feel joy. In fact, depression spikes in the lives of a lot of people this time of year. There's a lot of loneliness. But the good news for them, for all of us, is that God came near. God is with us, and he still is in the person of his son. And so that's the message we want to share. We want to share it on Christmas Eve. As we begin our time of prayer, please remember, keep praying for God to do an incredible work at Milton Frank Stadium on Christmas Eve. And pray for people to invite. I mean, this is the time of year, if you invite your friends, typically they say yes. And I don't know if you've picked up any invite cards. I'm always carrying them around with me. And there's even a QR code that people can scan, and it'll show them a video. This is a tremendous way to invite people to an event where you know they're going to hear the good news that God is with us. So be in prayer for that. And today I'd like to focus our attention, as we have our missionary moment, on Jeremy and Yvette. Jeremy and Yvette are in Atenas, Costa Rica. Jeremy is the pastor of the church. John Stone and I have been going there maybe 15 years, a very long time. We have a relationship that goes all the way back to when they met in a tiny little space on the top of a volcanic mountain. People either had to walk up the mountain or take a bus to get there. And because of your generosity, church family, we bought property down in the city of Atenas. We bought property where we built a church, debt-free. And now that they are in the population center, God has been doing tremendous things. Their attendance has tripled at least in the last year or two. In fact, that so many people are coming to the church that a government official showed up and told Jeremy, you have too many people coming here. This is because Catholicism is the major religion in Costa Rica. Too many people coming here. And began to put limitations on us, trying to hurt the work. Where God blesses, the devil messes. The devil tries to interfere. Jeremy even was attacked this year. A man came into the church and put a giant knife to his throat, and it had intended to kill him. That man's wife and kids, though, are now in church. The man is not. But the man's wife and children are in church. God's doing incredible things there. And that's why Jeremy needs prayers, his wife, his family. Pray for their safety. Pray for God to continue to bless them. Pray for them to overcome anything the enemy throws their way. Pray for the prenatal ministry. They've started a ministry where young women who are pregnant and in crisis and need to know what to do, they will come to the church. And then they get counseling. And as a result, women, rather than aborting their babies, have been choosing to keep their babies. And then they've given their lives to Christ. The last time I preached in Costa Rica at the church, there was a woman on the back row, and she was, as the King James would say, she was great with child. I mean, big belly. And I asked somebody, what's her story? There just seemed to be something about her. And they told me she came to the prenatal crisis pregnancy center at the church and gave her life to Christ. And now she's in Bible study and she's attending the church. These are the things that are happening there all the time. And I love the people so much. I could talk about it all day, but just be in prayer for them and for our partnership with them. Our church may go there half a dozen times a year at least. So as you're praying, remember Jeremy, Yvette, and the wonderful work that God's doing in Atenas, Costa Rica.